Hi, I'm Judith Etzel. I'm a reporter for the Derrick and the News Herald newspapers. Among the beats I cover is the oil and gas industry. And this area has a fascinating history on that. This is where it all started. We invented an entire industry here. No one knew how to do this until people ended up on the hills of Venango County, tried to figure out how to take that stuff, put it in a pipeline, and send it to a market.
You know, this is a key location both for the history of Oil City and the history of the Oil Creek region, because right around this spot is where most of the action occurred. Oil City actually started here. This was Oil City. This was a borough of Oil City at one time. The oil that got here came from all the production wells that existed between here and Titusville. If you would look at pictures dating back to 1860s and 1870s, you would see nothing but oil wells and production equipment along this whole valley.
Oh, I'm Augie Holtz. I'm a volunteer at Drake Well, and I more or less look after the clinic. We pump it about every other month. It was drilled in 1861 and been produced ever since.
McClintic #1 was originally called the Colby Well, and when it came in 1861, it produced 175 barrels a day. At this point, the way we're pumping it, we're lucky to get 30 barrels a year. Hamilton McClintic, who owned this farm, settled it in the early 1800s. Because the farm is adjacent to Oil Creek, there were always naturally occurring oil seeps in this area, and the Native Americans who harvested here and used it for medicine taught the early settlers how to harvest it, and that's what Mr. McClintic did.
This is the birthplace of the American petroleum industry. This is a replica of Drake's engine house in Derrick, and the noise that you hear is the sound of a steam engine, which was located here in the engine house, which operated the string of drilling tools that rose up and down in the derrick and pounded a hole in the ground to 69 feet, which is where Drake struck oil. This is just how lucky Drake was. If Drake had drilled just a little bit further in one direction or the other, he would not have struck oil. Drake did not discover oil. Human beings have been living here for over 6,000 years. The Native Americans knew about petroleum because the oil would rise to the surface naturally on the water. The French named Oil Creek because of petroleum. The Native Americans realized that if you dug pits, then the oil would rise to the surface of the water. Native Americans gathered the oil to use as medicine. It was used as a salve, as well as other medicinal uses, as well as for religious ceremonies and waterproofing.
Part of what you'll find of history in your backyard is the fact that you are very much a part of the Oil Region National Heritage Area, which was established in 2004. And behind us we have a brand new traveling photo exhibit which helps follow that transition from, of course, starting in 1859, where Drake Well came in, progressing through some of the earlier technology that was used in oil production, moving into the expanded production that happened when some of the gushers came in, and then you had a whole proliferation of very dense oil wells being located literally not just within stone's throw, but almost arm's reach sometimes from one well to the next. But many of the oil boom towns puckered out very rapidly, and the population moved on from them. Of course, oil's part of our life in everything from transportation, and the panel shows some of the progression of transportation and also the progression of the communities that were part of the oil around us. From Emlenton to Petroleum Center to images in the Titusville area and also Oil City. We invite you to explore many of these sites because they exist not only in the historical photographs, but many of them are the very towns and hillsides and cricksides around us today.
There's Maple Shade, Excelsior, Bull Creek, Big Tent, Denza, and Keystone, Stalin, Venango, Briggs, Organic, and Farrell. Petroleum, St. Nicholas, Corn Planter, New Creek Vein. Sure, 'tis no wonder many have oil on the brain. Stocks par, stocks up, then on the wane. Everybody's troubled with oil on the brain.
I'm standing in front of the Jacob Vandergrift historical marker, which we erected in Oil City here about 5 years ago, and it recognizes the critical role this man played in the development of the early oil industry. When Vandergrift came up here, he brought with him his steamboats and his barges and began to ship crude from here down to Pittsburgh. It was quite a lucrative business for him. For example, in one case, he bought oil at $1 a barrel, and that shipment he took to Pittsburgh and resold about 9 months later and made a profit of about $70,000 on it. In those days, that was a lot of money, and it would make a man, a very rich man, very quickly. He became very wealthy, and that wealth he reinvested in this area. He became a producer up on Oil Creek, some of the biggest wells he was involved with. He also built the Imperial Refinery up in Siverly. He built a railroad coming down from Pit Hole, did all manner of things. Moved to Oil City in 1863 and stayed here from 1863 to 1881. He raised his family here. He was, in his time here, the gentleman from the Standard Oil who represented Standard Oil. He became the president of the United Pipelines, which was a gathering pipeline system, and in doing so he became a director of the Standard Oil Company and on the board of Standard Oil. Very significant fellow who lived right up here on Colbert Avenue, where it intercepts with Graff. His house is no longer here, but had a big house with a big tower, and being a boatman, he was able to just go up in the tower and look at the river and see what was going on. Just a terrific fellow, and somebody that Oil City should never forget.